All right, so we are live. This is Quote of the Day, and this is Mike Kahn from Uncommon Quote of the Day. So the quote of the day comes from the book Socialism, an Economic and Sociological Analysis. The book was by Ludwig von Mises. So some of you, this is going to be really super boring, but what we're going to really talk about is the word liberalism and liberal, and how today it means the exact opposite of what it used to mean, and how the hell did that happen? So this is talked about all the way by this guy named F.A. Hayak. He actually wrote the foreword to Mises's Socialism, the book Socialism. And so that's going to be our quote of the day, so I'm going to jump right into it, and then we're going to go from there. So half a century ago, Mises could still speak of liberalism in a sense which is more or less the opposite of what the term means today in the United States and increasingly elsewhere. He regarded himself as a liberal in the classical 19th century meaning of the term, but almost 40 years have now elapsed since Joseph Schumpeter was constrained to say that in the United States, the enemies of liberty has a supreme but unintended complement, have thought it wise to appropriate this label. This was written in 1978. So how in the hell did the word liberal go from what it used to mean, which was it actually used to refer to liberty. It actually used to mean freedom and liberty and small government and all of that. But somewhere along the way, it flipped its meaning, and now it means big government. Now it means sort of giving liberally through government. That's sort of what it means now. Okay, so how did that happen? So that story for me starts from Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, he was a great liberal, right? In that he wanted to liberate the Negro, is the way that he put it. Hopefully I'm not going to get in trouble for using the N-word, but whatever. So he wanted to liberate black folks, and the way he wanted to do it is obviously demonstrations. He wanted people literally locked arms in solidarity. They, disobeyed all of the lunch counter lines, you got to sit in the back of the bus types of rules. He disobeyed all of these Jim Crow laws, which, by the way, were written by Democrats. Jim Crow laws were written and enforced by Southern Democrats. So how in the heck did it switch the other way? So here's what happened. Dr. Martin Luther King, he obviously originally fought for equality under the law. That was like his original intent. But what happened was, so he started off with saying, if you go back and you want to look at the Million Man March, and you look at that speech, he talks about how in the Declaration of Independence, the United States wrote a bad check. He sort of equates the Declaration of Independence with a check that was written to black folks for freedom and liberty and equality under the law. The Declaration of Independence, if you don't know, let me quote a little bit off the top of my cranium, says that all men are created equal, right, and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among them were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So all men are created equal. Okay, got it. So why the hell are there Jim Crow laws? Well, the southern states, even after the South was emancipated, decided they were going to continue to try to oppress black folks, because obviously they're not equal, right? So they're going to not treat them equally. So Dr. King went from, making people equal, but that wasn't really good enough. He wanted people to be not just equal in rights under the law, he wanted people to be equal in their amount of stuff. And so one of the famous quotes from him, and I'm not going to get this exact, this is kind of at the top of my head because I've listened to a lot of his speeches. I got on my little iPhone, and when I'm on trips, sometimes I loop his stuff, and I'll just kind of listen to it because it's just great stuff. These speeches by Dr. Martin Luther King, you should do that. You can go on audible.com and you can get all of his speeches for like, I don't know, $8 or $9 or something, and just listen to them. They're great. Okay, so in one of his speeches, though, he talks about India and how he's speaking out against the Vietnam War, and he's saying that all the money we spend on Vietnam, we should instead spend filling the bellies of the people of Vietnam, and of India, rather, filling the bellies of the people of India. And so And he says lots of this kind of stuff, that we need to redistribute wealth. He talks about redistributing wealth to those who are poor from people who are wealthy. And this becomes something that he calls the good society. And so a couple of things happen in rapid succession, right? So right around this period of time, Dr. King gets killed, right? He gets assassinated. And then around the same period of time, JFK gets assassinated. I'm not sure which one happens first. It doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. But they both get assassinated. And so something happens. Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, who's a Southern Democrat, who's a dude that has made many racial comments to this point, racial slurs. He's a guy that has said lots of favorable things about Jim Crow type laws. Okay, he's all for this stuff. He doesn't believe that black folks are equal, not by any stretch. But what does he do? In order to cater to this movement that's already growing and has already made lots of strides, the Million Man March has already happened, and so he puts his finger in the air and sees that the winds have changed, and so what does he do? Well, he turns the good society that Dr. King talked about and redistribution of wealth into the great society, and so he starts giving away stuff. Right? So he decides that he's going to pay single moms on a per child basis, give them food stamps, he's going to give housing assistance, he's going to give other types of assistance, Medicare or Medicaid, one of these programs gets passed around that time. And so he basically starts paying people that are poor to not work. And so that sounds great, right? Except, of course, what all that ends up doing is just it promotes the types of behaviors that lead to poverty, right? We know now that because the Great Society has been going on for so many years that it's actually increased the number of people that are in that strata, right? More people ended up becoming poor because, if you know that you're going to get paid to be a single mom, then you're going to be less likely to be careful about not becoming a single mom. I don't think it's necessarily to the extreme that people are gunning for trying to be single moms, but it definitely is the case that people are not anywhere near as careful. If you pay someone to do something, you're going to get more of that something that you pay for. This is a immutable law of economics, and so this is kind of what we're seeing. So anyway, I don't want to delve too far into that rat hole because we're probably coming up on the 10-minute mark. I think we're at 8 or 9 minutes. But all I want to say is that all the way back in 1978, and even before, guys like Hayak and guys like, who's this other guy? Von Mises, who I just started reading his book because I've been reading some stuff on Roger Ver, I think is the way you say his name, and he's one of the major Bitcoin backers and cryptocurrency backers, and so I've been following him a lot, and he recommended I read this book. So I'm reading it. And we're slogging through it, and it's actually pretty good. It's actually really good. It's not even a slog. It's like a fun read. Okay, so I recommend you check it out. This is Socialism and Economic and Sociological Analysis by Ludwig von Mises. And this has been Uncommon Quote of the Day. Mike Kahn. I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow.